Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Grodor here, keeping it tanky in Raid Shadow Legends, and today we are going to talk about who is going to receive each and every blessing in the game. Going to try to find somebody, or at least a style of champion, that would want to use each one of these blessings. Might be easier said than done. Let's see. Starting off here with the light category, with Indomitable Spirit, has a chance of blocking any stun, sleep, fear, true fear, freeze, and provoke debuffs whenever an enemy tries to place them on this champion on a 1-turn cooldown. So let's see how high that goes. That goes up to so it starts with a 5% chance of blocking debuffs on the 1-turn cooldown, and with the 6-star it goes up to a 30% chance of blocking debuffs with no cooldown.
Listen up, guys. You can get Elenaril for free, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you level up. Just click my link in the description. Here's the steps to go about getting yours. Log out of Play and Play on PC and uninstall. This will not work on mobile unless you are downloading it for the first time. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril for free, as well as 3 free epics. Just click my link in the description and enjoy this wonderful start to Raid.
So the 6-star isn't bad, but nobody's blowing a 6-star blessing on this, or a 6-star soul on this blessing. However, there are, champions who are like meat shields. Nukers could benefit from this, although nukers are never going to choose this over something that's going to increase their damage. So realistically, nobody's using this blessing. Starting off, bad one already. I guess champions like Armons or UDK, or even like revivers, so that way you could protect them from being crowd controlled. But this doesn't even stop all forms. Like petrification and sheep are not on this list, so you're still kind of risking it. Up next we have Miracle Heal. Has a chance of restoring a portion of any destroyed max HP whenever this champion heals themselves or an ally. The amount of HP restored is equal to a percentage of the heal. That starts it out as a 50% chance at restoring 10% worth of the heal, and that goes up to 100% chance of restoring 30% of the heal. So this one's actually not that bad. If there are certain use cases for like Fire Knight Hard, or even sometimes in Hydra, that you're going to run into destroy max HP even in PvE, and it's just gonna suck because it can screw over HP nukers, and it can make you so squishy that you're just screwed in a single hit. So this actually isn't a bad blessing, especially for a rare. Once you get up to the 5-star and you get a guaranteed chance at restoring this, granted at 5 stars it's only 20% of the heal, but still, when you're putting someone like an Oella who does a lot of healing, then it still has some value. So yeah, it's gonna go on some kind of healer who puts out big heals. You're not gonna want this on somebody who's doing the little passive heals like Vrask or Syl or somebody like that, because the heal will be too small. Next we have Iron Will. Decreases the damage this champion receives according to the number of debuffs on them. Doesn't decrease the damage from poison, HP burn, and bomb debuffs. So it's kind of useless. Starting out at 0.5% and goes all the way up to 2%, which means if none of the debuffs on them are damaging debuffs, you could get up to 20% damage reduction. That's not happening. You'd be better off trying to counter it with something like block debuffs, or if it's burns, bring somebody like Ashnar. There are plenty of champions who counter these types of debuffs, so not a good choice. But if you were going to stick it on somebody like a UDK or an Islin, somebody who's going to be going slow and receiving a lot of debuffs and eating a lot of damage, especially if it's somebody like a UDK or an ally protector who's going to be soaking up a lot of damage for your team. Next we have Heavencast. This one's an interesting one. Increases the damage inflicted by this champion according to the number of buffs on them. doesn't increase the damage from poison, HP burn, and bombs. It starts out as 0.5% per buff, and then up to 2% for each buff. So same as Iron Will, this one's just offensive, meaning you can get up to 20% extra damage. That's actually not that great, because unless you're stacking up like 15 continuous heals, getting to 10 buffs is easier said than done. So this is great for nukers who already have a lot of innate ignore defense, a bunch of innate ignore defense that doesn't place debuffs. We're going to talk about one later on here who that will serve most damage dealers better. This is good for champions like Frolny. Could be good because he steals buffs, so he can ramp up buffs, but he doesn't place any debuffs. Or Taurus is a really good candidate for this one. Just anybody who doesn't place debuffs and has plenty of ignore defense. Intimidating presence. This is going on your strong auras, especially your speed auras in arena, because it strengthens your team's aura and weakens the enemy team's aura. The other time you use this blessing is when somebody has a crap kit, or a crap aura, but you're still going to use them alongside of someone with a good aura consistently. At the 1 star, you're boosting your team's aura by 2.5% and weakening the enemies by 5%, up to strengthening your team's aura by 35% and weakening enemy team's aura by 20%. It's a pretty good boost. It actually doesn't boost as much as you think it would. So definitely saving it for somebody with a really strong speed aura for arena is definitely the peak use case, because in arena 1 speed can make all the difference. Alright, and finally for this category we have Lightning Cage. Lightning Cage is a weird one, and one that I would say really has only one glaring use case. So what does it do? Whenever an enemy receives a buff or has their turn meter filled, places a lightning orb stack on this champion. When activated, a lightning orb stack randomly protects one other active buff from being removed, stolen, or transferred. After activation, the lightning orb stack disappears. A champion can have a maximum of 3 at one time. Whenever a champion with 3 lightning orb stacks hits enemy targets, inflicts bonus damage to them based on their max HP. Bonus damage can occur on each hit of a skill, but does not count as an extra hit. After the bonus damage is applied, it removes all stacks. So you start out with 1 per buff. It has a 50% chance of protecting the buff, and then the bonus damage inflicted is equivalent to 2% of enemy of an enemy champion's max HP, or 1% of a boss's max HP. So 6% damage to a champion, or 3% damage enemy max HP to a boss. Up to, on the 6 star, bonus damage inflicted by each lightning orb is equivalent to 5% of an enemy champion's max HP, or 2.5% of a boss's max HP. So 15% to champions, or 7.5% to bosses. They will also have up to a 75% chance of protecting buffs. This is a really good one for Mischief Tank and Hydra, because it gives you an extra buff which will draw that head's attention, and then you will also get a chance to protect your buffs if you don't have enough resistance. And finally, it's more damage. And more damage is always great. More damage is always something you should be looking for once you have a build that works for what you need it to do. Alright, let's see if we're moving on to the dark category, and I don't want to hold you guys up too long, so we're gonna try to speed these up. Dark Resolve increases the damage inflicted by this champion according to the number of dead allies on their team. Doesn't increase debuff damage. Starts with 1% for each dead ally, up to 5% for each dead ally. This one's not going to be used hardly ever. Yeah, because I can't think, unless you're running like a crap ton of Wukongs, you're going to be able to find easier ways of dealing damage. Because if you're in an arena battle and you're the only one left alive, you're only getting 15% damage. So at that point, it's better to try to go for like a Heaven Cast, where you can get 20% with some setup. Phantom Touch Great for Fire Knight, as well as any rare champion who you want to get more damage out of. It's the default rare blessing. Has a chance of inflicting bonus damage to enemies whenever this champion hits enemy targets. When hitting multiple targets at once, only one champion will receive the bonus damage. It is on a 1-turn cooldown. Bonus damage is proportional to this champion's attack. That is a 15% chance. And then with the 6-star, has a 100% chance of inflicting bonus damage and has a 35% chance of inflicting it a second time. So yeah, great for Fire Knight and just about all rares. Cruelty, great for champions who are going to be taking a lot of turns, but they're not going to be doing a lot of damage. Champions like Grand Oak Padraig, he is a good candidate for it. Just champions who otherwise don't have much utility outside of the role that you specifically need. It's also good to have on just any team, so yeah, good to keep in mind. Whenever this champion hits an enemy, decreases their defense until the end of the round, occurs once per hit. If multiple champions have this blessing, still cannot decrease a single champion's defense by more than 40% or a boss's by 20%. And then the level of blessing just increases the cap and the amount done per hit. Starts off with 1% per hit, up to 10% for champions, and up to 5% for bosses. And then the 6-star decreases by 4% per hit, up to 40% for champions, and up to 20% for bosses. So yeah, it's a good default. Lethal Dose increases the damage of poisons. This works really well when you're using champions like Calvalax or Nell, champions who are going to be using the Arachnelixir. It starts out by increasing the damage received from poisons by 50%, all the way up to 200% at the 5-star blessing, and the 6-star gives you 35% ignore resistance when placing poisons. So yeah, it's a strong blessing for a niche set of champions. It also only works in arena and siege, so don't go in expecting that you're going to start doing insane amounts of damage to the clan boss. Otherwise, you would be sorely disappointed. Temporal Chains decreases speed and turn meter based on the number of buffs your enemies are gaining. Starts with decreasing enemy speed by 2% for each active buff up to 6%, and goes all the way up to instantly decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15% whenever an enemy receives a third active buff. And it also decreases enemy speed by 5% up to 15% for each buff. Ward of the Fallen. Temporal Chains is good for just to have in arena, but you can't always squeeze it in there. Ward of the Fallen, kind of a weird one, not one that I see very many people use. Honestly, I think there's always going to be better use cases, better blessings out there for you to use, especially for legendary champions. Starts each round with a number of bone armor stacks. Each bone armor stack decreases the damage that the recipient receives from a single hit, then disappears. A champion can have a maximum of 3 at one time. Deals bonus damage to each enemy hit by this champion. The number of times bonus damage is inflicted on each enemy is equal to the number of dead allies. It is proportional to this champion's attack. Adds 1 bone armor stack for each instance of bonus damage inflicted. Bonus damage will not be inflicted when damaging enemies through masteries, passive skills, or reflected damage, poison, or HP burn debuffs. Starts off with 1 bone armor stack of the round, and will decrease damage received by 20%. Then it goes up to bone armor stacks decreasing damage by 30% at 5 stars, and then at 6 stars start with 3 bone armor stacks. Inflicts bonus damage when attacking. Bonus damage adds 1 bone armor stack. So you don't even get the bonus damage until the 6 star. That's really bad. Moving on to War. These don't see much play except for the legendaries. Hero Soul increases damage inflicted to bosses and their minions according to the number of living enemies. This is like a spider, I guess, would find this useful. Starts at 0.5% damage for each enemy, up to 3% for each enemy. Again, outside of Spider, you're only going to be getting 12 to 15% extra damage, so keep that in mind. Faultless Defense. Whenever an enemy attacks an ally under increased defense placed by this champion, reflects a portion of the damage back to the attacker. Good for early Fire Knight. Starts with 3% damage reflected up to 15%. And the reason it's good for early Fire Knight is because you can literally just melt the boss's shield stacks by getting hit while under increased defense. Commanding Presence, the weaker version of Intimidating Presence, it just strengthens your team's aura, starting out by 2.5% up to 35%. So it's just always better to go with Intimidating Presence on the legendaries. Never go with Commanding Presence. And Commanding Presence will always be replaced by Intimidating Presence if it gets the chance. They will not stat. So good for epics that have good auras. Chainbreaker, at the start of this champion's turn, has a chance of removing any crowd control, but sheep placed on this champion only activates if this champion is under any of these debuffs. It starts at a 10% chance, goes up to a 25% chance, and has a 40% chance of filling this champion's turn meter by 20% when hit. So Chainbreaker is not bad for those slower supports who you don't want to have crowd controlled, and when they get hit they have a chance to gain turn meter, so it doesn't matter what speed you run them at. Life Harvest, good for people who are going to be running content where people or minions are going to be revived a lot, because what it does is it destroys enemies max HP by a certain amount whenever they are revived. This works really well in like Ice Golem. Starts out at destroys enemy max HP by 10%, goes up to 40% and fills this champion's turn meter by 30%. So yeah, it's more turn meter and makes revived enemies weaker. Really good against like a Wukong who's coming back with like almost half health, and you're getting turn meter boost. Soul Reap, this one is the cream of the crop for PvE, for boss killing. It can also be really good for PvP, so that way you can just do a better job at securing kills. There are better blessings for damage dealers, but for supports, it's a really solid one. And even some damage dealers. Basically, when you attack someone and their HP hits a certain threshold, a Reaper is going to come out of the ground and deal a crap ton of damage to them. The HP threshold starts out at 4% and then goes up to 20%, has a 100% chance of placing True Fear debuff for one turn if the target survives the Reaper. If you want there to be a less likely chance that the enemy will survive, use a lower blessing. The higher the HP threshold gets, the easier it is for the target to survive. Chaos. Emergency Heal heals this champion whenever a shield buff placed on them expires, is removed, or broken by an enemy attack. Starts out by 3% of their max HP up to 15%. This goes well with champions who receive a lot of shields, or champions that are going to be going into... I wonder if this works with Blood Shield accessories. If you know, let me know in the comments. If it does, that's just really strong for healing in Scarab Boss. Survival Instinct fills turn meter whenever you receive a debuff. Starts out at 5%, goes up to 10%, and no turn restrictions. So early on, only occurs once per enemy turn. But later on, with the 6-star, there's no limit. You can just generate a ton of turn meter with this. Crushing Rend is the go-to 6-star damage dealer blessing. It basically just gives you the opportunity to ignore defense. Until you get to like the 5-star, you don't want it because it only works the first time you attack, ignoring 1% defense for every 50 levels. And then at the 5-star, it's first 2 hits. And then the 6-star, every hit will ignore a percentage of defense, 1% for every 10 levels. You can ignore a lot of defense with at 6 stars, but it's not going to do a whole lot before then. So that's why at a lower level, you're going to be going for something like Soul Reap or Heaven Cast, or one that we'll get to here in a minute. Incinerate. Lethal dose for HP burns. You do extra damage in Arena and Siege with HP burns, and then you also at the 6-star decrease enemy turn meter whenever they receive damage from HP burns. The damage can be increased by up to 100% at the 5-star blessing, which means you can do 6% of a target's max HP per tick. Polymorph, we all know what it does. Each time you take a chance at placing a debuff or stealing buffs, this has a chance to turn you into a sheep, which reduces your stats and is really annoying. At 1 star, it has a 5% chance of occurring and does require accuracy and can be resisted. Then at 20%, you have a 20% chance of placing an irresistible sheep debuff. Yeah. Brimstone, whenever you attack, each hit has a chance of placing smite. Whenever a champion under smite uses an active skill, so anything but an A1, they take a lot of damage. Only one smite debuff can be active per team at any point. So you really only need one source of brimstone on a team, but you always want a source of brimstone because it has up to a 100% chance of placing a guaranteed and protected smite debuff. That is on a 4-turn cooldown, so it won't happen all the time, but it's still really strong. Also, I'm switching Carnage over to Crushing Rend since I have him 6-star Awaken now. Nourish. We are on our last category here. Increases the value of the heal granted by continuous heal buffs placed by this champion. Each continuous heal buff placed by this champion destroys a portion of the target's destroyed max HP. Great for champions who do a lot of continuous heals. I'm thinking, obviously, the quintessential would be Senna, but Awella places a lot, Padraig places some, Raka and Elva place a lot of continuous heals. A lot of champions who place a lot of continuous heals. So that's a really good source of extra healing. Increases the value of heals granted by 5% and restores 5% of the heal on 1 star. And then at 6 stars, it increases by 30% and restores 30% of the heal. So that means that continuous heals go from being a 15% heal to a 20% heal. Nature's Bounty has a chance of converting small versions of debuffs into big versions of the debuffs. So like Kale's A1, where he places small poisons, now has a chance to become big poisons. Bellower can place proper debuffs. Allure can place drop defense at a large value now. Starts out at 15% chance, goes up to a 60% chance. It's not bad. Neutralize has a chance to place debuffs on weak hits when attacking enemies under Poison Cloud. You're never going to use this. If you are, you're only going to use it in Hydra. It has a 10% chance at 1 star, has a 60% chance at 6 star. Just carry a burn. Nature's Wrath. This is the other really good damage dealer blessing. Really the only one that, if you place debuffs on that nuker, the only one who's going to give it a run for its money is 6-star Crushing Rend. So what it does is it increases the damage inflicted by this champion for every debuff they successfully place, as long as it's not from gear sets. Increases the damage by 2% for every debuff placed, up to 6% on a 1 star, and then the 6 star is 5% for each debuff up to 30%. So it's just Arethi Coronet all over again. It's really strong. Combine it with the Arethi Coronet, and you basically get up to 60% extra damage, which is just bonkers. So if you're not struggling to get ignore defense in your build, and you already have, if you place debuffs, then this is the one to go for. Cracking Roots increases damage inflicted to Stone Skin. Not really that great, to be honest. It does up to 100% extra damage. It's not going to serve you all that well. You'd be better off by trying to strip it, or if you want to destroy it with damage, go with bombs. And the Harmonic Impulse fills this champion's turn meter whenever they lose their turn because of fear or true fear. Also decreases the cooldown of the skill they attempted to use whenever their turn is lost due to a true fear effect. If you know you're going to be going up against a lot of Fabian or the like, or if you want to counter the Head of Torment in Hydra, this is the one you're going to be using. Otherwise, don't fool with it. The 1 star decreases the cooldown of the skill this champion attempted to use by 1 turn. Fills this champion's turn meter by 20% or 10%. 6 star resets the cooldown of the skill this champion attempted to use. Fills his turn meter by 50%. So it gets pretty strong, but you're not really going to want to use it that often. So there you go, guys. There's all the blessings in the game and how I think they should be used. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay happy and healthy, and stay tanky.